This week, President Obama used the gusher in the Gulf to push the Senate to move on a comprehensive energy bill, which Democratic Senator John Kerry introduced earlier this year. He joins us from Concord, New Hampshire now. Also joining us this morning, Republican Senator John Cornyn, chair of the National Republican Senatorial Committee, which helps elect Republicans to the Senate. Senator Cornyn is in Austin, Texas this morning. Senator Kerry, Senator Cornyn, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Glad to be with you.
Senator Kerry, starting with you, do you think the Obama administration has been too cozy or too trusting with BP?
No, I think they're holding BP's feet to the fire. But obviously this has been, as you just heard Admiral Allen say, it's continued to dissipate. It continues to provide challenges. I think they've got an extraordinary number of workers, 17,500 National Guard, over 20,000 workers, almost 2,000 vessels. It's growing. They're growing to meet the demand. And I am convinced you're going to see the Congress of the United States and the administration together hold BP and the drilling process accountable.
Senator Cornyn, how would you rate BP's response? Should CEO Tony Hayward stay or should he go?
Well, BP's response has been lousy. They're the ones that started this problem. And unfortunately, Jake, here we are 48 days into it. And I'm glad to hear Admiral Allen saying we've accumulated the human and physical assets we need to deal with this problem, but it sure has taken a long time. And I think a lot of the confusion's been because no one has really known who's in charge. Is it the President of the United States? Is it the CEO of British Petroleum? Who is it? Is it Admiral Allen? So I think really we need the President to step up and assert himself and to say, let's cut through the red tape, let's cut through the chain of command, and let's get the assets where they need to be in order to protect the beaches and the people of that important region.
Senator Kerry, you were smiling during that. You want to respond?
Well, it's sort of fashionable in Washington right now to try to blame the Obama administration for this disaster, which occurred because of a drilling problem that occurred with BP and Transoceanic and so forth. From day one, from the first moment, from within hours of this happening, President Obama was notified. The next day, he held a principals meeting in the White House. He's been down there 3 times. Every major person in the administration's been there. You have the best minds in the country being brought to bear on this, but everybody understands the government of the United States doesn't do the drilling. The government of the United States doesn't have the technology. And they've been racing to try to make up for BP's mistakes and for the absence here of a sufficient level of emergency. Frankly, we had 8 years, as many of us remember, of secret oil industry meetings where they wrote the oil laws, where there was an incestuous relationship with the MMS, and everybody understands this relationship has to change. I think it is changing now. Here's what's important: not to be throwing the blame around, but to put America on the course to true energy independence and self-reliance, and to begin to wean ourselves from our addiction to oil. And the Congress has, staring it in the face, an opportunity to catch up to the rest of the world. China, India, Germany, Japan, other countries are using American-discovered technologies in solar and wind, and they're rushing them to the marketplace. The United States is losing a major economic transformational moment until we begin to do something. You know, since 9/11, we now actually import more oil than we did before 9/11. It's insulting to common sense. And what we need to do is pass an energy comprehensive policy that prices carbon and begins to move America to the future so we can get into the marketplace. We'll have less pollution, better health, better national security, better competitiveness, increased ability to provide our own national energy policy, and we will create millions of jobs.
Senator Cornyn, your response. Senator Kerry obviously advocating for his energy bill.
Well, there are parts of the bill that Senator Kerry and Senator Lieberman have introduced that I think are positive steps. The acknowledgement that we can't completely cut off ourselves from domestic sources of oil and gas, that we need to explore nuclear power. That's certainly an important part of the overall picture. But where I disagree with them is that we need to tax the American consumer and the American business at a time when, with an energy tax, a new energy tax, when unemployment's at 10%. You know, if we do that, then we're going to kill a lot of jobs that currently exist. And together with the moratorium that is of uncertain duration, particularly in the Gulf states, Governor Jindal and others have expressed their concern. I share that concern that a lot of people who make their livelihood in the oil and gas industry are going to be out of work. So we need to be very careful here. I think rather than try to hit a grand slam home run, I'd like to work with Senator Kerry and others to try to do, hit some singles and develop nuclear power, battery technology that will help us deal with our environmental concerns. And then let's look to divert more of our demand to natural gas, which we have in plentiful supply. It's American, and it's much less of an emissions problem than other forms of energy.
Senator Kerry, I want to let you respond to the...
Well, Jake, if I...
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, if I can just say quickly, look, I'm delighted to hear John say he'd like to work with us. And obviously, I've been working with Lindsey Graham, Joe Lieberman. We want to reach across the aisle, and we want to reach accommodation. But let me tell you, Joe DiMaggio and Ted Williams and Babe Ruth never stepped up to bat in the World Series and said, I want to try to hit a single. The fact is, the United States right now is behind in an enormous challenge globally, where China, India, and others are spending billions of dollars to take the discoveries that we made, and they're taking them to the marketplace. The fact is, we're in a race against science. The science tells us we need to reduce the levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and there are many, many reasons. Every major study that has been done by a legitimate group, most recently the Peterson Institute of Economics, shows that there are hundreds of thousands of jobs to be created if you pass our legislation and if you wind up pricing carbon. Now, there's no tax in our bill. Unfortunately, there are some folks who call anything and everything that's dreamed up in Washington a tax. There is no tax. What we do is have a system where those who are polluters in a country have a requirement to reduce their pollution. And in doing so, we create any numbers of jobs by moving to natural gas, to nuclear, to alternative and renewable energy, to energy efficiency, to conversions of vehicles to natural gas, to retrofitting homes and reducing our energy use. There are countless ways in which we can put America to work with jobs that stay in America. And every one of those studies says this will not raise the cost of energy for most Americans, and it will, in fact, protect the consumers even as we create those jobs.